Welcome to the Slow Living Collective podcast. I'm Amy, wife, mother of two and homemaker. Come along with me as I share my love for simple living, growing in my allotment garden, diving into what it means to be an urban homesteader and embracing life as a mother and homemaker. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Slow Living Collective podcast. Today I have a really exciting interview for you, and I know I say that a lot, but I am so blessed to be able to talk to so many amazing people on this podcast, and today is no exception. Today I'm talking to Shannon from Simpl Living Co, and Shannon is a professional organiser, and she's here to talk to us about minimalism, decluttering, and how a change in your mindset around stuff can completely change your outlook. So let's dive in to today's episode. Hi Shannon, so thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. So before we dive in, do you want to briefly introduce yourself and share your journey about how you embrace minimalism?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Shannon and I'm a minimalist-minded professional organiser from West Sussex. My mission is larger than just helping people to declutter their homes, though it's an important element. My goal is to empower people to embrace a life free from the constraints of what society tells us we need to be happy, and to help people to simplify their lives so that they can make room for what truly matters to them. So like many, I grew up wanting like the latest thing and getting a thrill from purchasing new items. I think as young women, we're really pushed towards these like shopping sprees because we see it in teen films, and there's lots of rich women walking around with shopping bags and handbags and like the latest thing. And so I think, you know, as young girls, it's just like this is the thing that everyone aspires to have. So I spent my teen years and my early 20s. I bought new clothes. I wanted the latest trendy thing. You know, I was off at uni, nights out. You want to have something new to wear. So I was not a minimalist from birth. You know, some people are naturally very like minimal, and that wasn't me. The only thing I can think of on reflection, sometimes I like to try and think back, like where has this mindset come from in terms of like, is there anything in my past that I can relate it to? And the only thing I can think of is I used to tidy my bedroom and move all the furniture around, and then I would go downstairs and get my mum to come up and like do a big reveal to her. And I think some people can relate. I've spoken to a couple of people who've been like, yeah, I used to do that. But my mum used to be so angry that I was like 11 years old, moving like wardrobes and beds around. She'd come in like, what have you done? Like, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to fall under a wardrobe. But for me, it was like having that change and resetting the space. And I just really loved the reaction. And I think the similarity with what I do now is obviously like I organize people's spaces and then I reveal it to them, and always love to when they give me a great reaction. But yeah, so that's the only thing I can kind of like on reflection say was kind of related to my work. But the reason, well, the way I got into minimalism is I happened to watch a documentary called Minimalism that ultimately changed my life and just set me on a journey of discovering simple living and minimalism. And the moment that the documentary finished, I started running around my house and creating a massive pile of stuff in the middle of the living room to declutter. Now, this isn't how I teach people that I work with, and not what I recommended, but it was all that I could do in the moment, and it worked for me. So after watching that documentary, I felt like a door had just opened to a new world that I had no idea about. And I just wanted to learn more. So I began watching YouTube videos, reading books, listening to podcasts about people who lived in tiny homes, nomads, and Swedish death cleaning, which is not as morbid as it sounds. And over 7 years, I carefully curated my life, not just my possessions, but my finances, my digital life. And after a relationship broke down and I had to move out, I discovered that I could fit my entire life into my car. And even though it was a difficult situation I was in, and I was moving to my dad's, I was 27, and it just wasn't how I wanted my life to be at that moment in time, I just felt so free that I wasn't having to hire loads of moving vans, and I had that freedom to be able to move and unpack really quickly when I got to my new location, so I could start what would be a new adventure for me. So I think another element I really love about minimalism is the financial freedom that can come from not buying loads of stuff all the time. And it ultimately allowed me to fulfill my lifelong dream of owning my own property. So yeah, that's kind of my little information, like shortened down into how I got into minimalism.
Excellent. And it's really interesting while you were talking, I guess we've sort of like ebbed and flowed with trying to be minimalist, and over the years it's definitely, I would say, more difficult with children. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how things just appear. We are very, I was gonna use the word stingy. I don't mean we're stingy, but we are very mindful about how we, like, what we buy the children, in terms of toys. Like, we do things like toy rotation, so we don't have a lot out at one time, which is fantastic for like their play and everything. But it just, something that I have found really difficult is that I have been in a long, long line of friends who have got children older than mine, and they give me secondhand clothes, which is wonderful, and I'm so grateful. But it just gets overwhelming. It just gets so much. Like, I often joke, I didn't realize how much I would be constantly sorting other people's clothes.
Yeah.
It's just immense. I think the clothes is the biggest thing, and I like them to not have too much. But when you're getting secondhand stuff, you're like, well, I don't want to say no, and like that can be a bit of a bind, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am in a situation, I don't have children, I live by myself, it's just me and my dog. So I'm not I'm in a different lifestyle to people who I help and support. But I will say that it isn't, and I think it is a challenge having children and other people in the household who bring stuff in. And, with children, especially the amount of stuff that is offered to you, and grandparents constantly buying the kids stuff, and they
Yeah.
go out for a day and they've got toys they want to bring back. And there is a constant influx of stuff, and it can be really difficult. So I really acknowledge that. But it is, like you were saying, about people handing you down stuff, which is wonderful and lovely. I think sometimes it is about setting boundaries with people, of
Yeah.
just saying, thank you so much, we're so grateful, but we have enough at the moment. Or would you mind if I just go through and pick out the things that they do need? And it's just having to have those really honest conversations sometimes, which feel difficult, but your mental health and your home is your priority, and you wouldn't want to burden other people with the same thing of like, here's a load of stuff for you, and like, how they might be feeling. So yeah, that's just my tip with that. Is there's loads of things you can do with kids to bring them up in a way of knowing about letting go of things, and that we can't have everything. And I think a lot of parents do avoid it because it's just easier to, just when they're at school or something, just like clear out the stuff they're not going to notice. But I think if all of our parents had the knowledge and the ability to teach us about simplifying and having less, and the importance of like experiences and all of those things, we might as a society be in a slightly different place. So yeah, we could talk forever about children, but
Yeah.
definitely I want people to know that there is ways you can possibly do it with kids. It's just a lot more challenging.
Yeah, and like you say, we actually, when we did the toy rotation last time, we bought everything in. So we have 3 plastic boxes, and that's the maximum of our toys. But it was like, there was bits that were missing out of things, and
usually I would say, like, I'll do it when they're not here because everybody's like in boxes and things are all over the place. But last time we actually did it with them, we all sat down and we were like, right, we're going to have to, like, things that are broken, we don't need them anymore. Things that don't have pieces, we don't need them anymore. And, you know, some of these things, I hate it. Let's try and get rid of it. And it was difficult for them, you know, they're, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's the same walking through shops and everything. But, um, you know, we don't buy a lot of stuff. And hopefully that will sort of filter down. But yeah, going through it with them, it was difficult in the moment, but worth it at the end.
Yeah, definitely. And it's all education. And we have to remember that not only us, but our children are seeing between 50 and 400 adverts per day. You know, kids now have iPads, they're watching TV. You remember as we were kids when we watched TV, in between programs is adverts for toys. Like, it's just constant. And now they're like into so much more technology. They're watching adverts before YouTube videos, and it's just constant for them as well. So they are getting the same social messaging that we are, that this is going to make you happy, this is the latest thing, this is great. And so they are experiencing that, and there is so much joy in going to toy shops and getting something new. But it's the same as anything. You don't let your kids stay up till 10 o'clock at night because it's not good for their health. And it's the same thing as, don't give your kids hundreds of toys, because they also feel overwhelmed by clutter, and imaginative play happens so much more when there's less stuff. Like, babies love cardboard boxes for a reason, because they can play in them. Well, not babies, toddlers, we know, young children. And it's just fun, you know. And kids, adults are trying to shove the toy back under their nose, like, this is the thing to be playing with, not the cardboard box. But just give your kids cardboard boxes. Like, make it, you know, it's cheaper, it's fun for them. So yeah, I'm definitely obviously not a parent, but there are things you can do, like you say, having those conversations and doing it with them. And you're setting them up for life. It's the same as any other boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know minimalism can sometimes be like misunderstood. There are various ways of sort of describing it. So for anybody who's listening that's sort of unfamiliar with minimalism, how would you define it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that's really misunderstood. So I think a great way of explaining it is by saying what minimalism isn't. And so it isn't a set of strict rules that you have to follow. It isn't a physical thing that you do. It is a lifestyle. So it's not just about decluttering. It's about changing your mindset as well. It isn't about owning as little as humanly possible, and it isn't about living in a white box. And this always kind of makes me laugh, because people always say to me, well, what's your home look like? You know, when I go and help them to declutter. I went to like a networking event today, and someone was like, I was telling them about my business there. Well, what does your home look like? And the thing is my home does look like a white box. I love the aesthetic of white walls. I have like off-white floors, and I have cream furniture, which also shows that I don't have children. But for me, you know, that is the aesthetic I like. But minimalism doesn't have to be that. For everyone, it's completely different. So you can bring color in, and you can have stuff on your walls. You can have like books and whatever you love. So it's not about a white box, and it isn't about frugality either. To me, minimalism is fluid and has no structure, because like I said, it is completely different to everyone. And I would say the principle of it is living an intentional life. So owning items that you need practically and items that you truly love. It's about removing the excess so you can get clear on what you want to do with your life, who you want to be, and how you want to serve the world. Because when you have so much stuff around you, it is so difficult to focus on your goals or what you want to do or achieve, because you're forever tidying up and thinking you've got to do that, can't find stuff. Your mornings are chaotic because you don't know what to wear, and there's stuff everywhere. So by removing all of that, it simplifies your life and means you can really focus on your goals and your dreams.
I really love that. That definitely sort of fits in with, you know, the way we try and live. We live in a pretty small house. We would have moved by now, I think, if it wasn't because we've got 2 bedrooms, 2 children. And my husband works from home full time. Like, I've always maintained, like, no, it's not that we outgrow things, it's that, you know, sometimes we just have too much stuff and it's like we need to fit into the space. Fine. But I do know that eventually, you know, my children will require separate bedrooms and things like that. And you know, my husband needs a space to work now. He works from home full time. And so, you know, if we would have moved, we've been trapped because of some building stuff. So we do want to move, but I'm very keen that when we move, we don't move to something much bigger. Because so many things, like you mentioned finances, like I don't want us to overstretch ourselves. We're a one income family because I home educate the kids and I'm home with them. And so, you know, I don't want to stretch myself. I want that to be as simple and as minimal as possible. And you know, I think that it's often the stuff that makes us feel like we don't fit in a space. And you know, if we took a lot of the stuff out, we'd fit in this space perfectly fine.
Yeah, very interesting. I had a client quite a while ago now, and she came to me because she was thinking she was going to have to move. And her situation was that she was going to have to get a bigger house. Her and her husband, they were thinking, I don't know if they'd found somewhere or not, but she was saying that they were going to have to move to a bigger house because they didn't fit in the house they had anymore. I think they had 3 children, and she was overwhelmed by the staff and stress, and she just wanted some help and support to declutter. She told me that she was going to have to go back into full-time work. I think she was part-time, so that they can afford to double their mortgage payment. They were obviously, because they were going bigger, they were going to have to pay double what they were currently paying for their mortgage. And so she was going to have to go back to full-time work, means they wouldn't see their kids so much. They were going to have to stretch themselves, which is obviously really stressful. So we went through the decluttering process of her home. And by the end of it, she got back in touch and told me that they weren't going to move because they could actually fit into their space. So ultimately, she had saved herself hundreds of pounds per month. She was able to spend that quality time with her kids and whatever she wanted to do with that money, whether it was holidays or, you know, just being able to live a nice life. None of that was going to have to happen just because she could declutter and fit everything back into the space that they were in. And I think that that is so important. We're working harder, we're working longer hours to get bigger houses to fill with more stuff that we don't need. We're not spending time with our friends and family, and it's just this drive for what? Like, to live in a giant house full of rubbish that we're never going to use.
Yeah.
And so it's really great to think that maybe we could just downsize and we can live within our means, and we could use that money to do so many other things and have wonderful lives, then spend it on Amazon stuff that we're never going to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's until we had our second, we would have said that we would have stayed here, and it's only because the building issues that we've had have made us just not actually physically want to stay here. But you know, we've been keeping an eye out on things. Like you, I expect where we live is so expensive, and you know, we can get just one extra bedroom is all we need for office space for my husband, and then ultimately a bedroom one day. But yeah, I just don't want anything bigger, and I think that's not necessarily the norm of what people think. We always go for the next biggest better thing, and it's like, for us to move from our property and to buy in the same area, we're looking at moving maybe just like 10 minutes out from where we live, and we can get something almost like for like, which is a big win for me in terms of finances. Like I could get a 3-bedroom house for the same as my 2-bedroom flat, and so not increasing our mortgage. If I moved like two minutes down the road here, we're talking about finding an extra 100 to 150,000 pounds to do just that. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not saddling my family with that debt, my husband with that responsibility. And it's like there are better ways that we can work around that. And so yeah, I'm very keen on not pushing ourselves financially. Like things are expensive enough as it is now, without having to, I just couldn't imagine how much it would cost us to move and take on all of that extra. It would just be, unaffordable. And then, like you say, then it's like, at what cost? Because we've made this decision for our life, which isn't the decision that everybody makes, to, for me to stay home and educate the children. That's not everybody's choice, but it's the way we've set up our life, and we don't want to change that.
Yeah. I think it's so good for people to just start to think like, and I think this is what the kind of documentary did for me, is to just start realizing what's going on in your life and which elements of that are things you actually want and which are because society tells you that they're the things you should be doing. Of course, move to a bigger home because your family's growing and you need that space, but like you say, it's not getting a massive home because your family's going to be really impressed, or getting that job because your mum and dad will be really proud because you're now a lawyer, but you absolutely aren't interested in that and want to be an artist. Whatever it is, like, just start to think which way is it going and why. And I think that's one of the really sad things about minimalism, is not only is there misconceptions of what it is, but it's not the norm, which to me is crazy. That living within your means, living with intention, and being mindful of what you're purchasing and why you're purchasing it and what you bring into your life and the reasons for it, isn't the norm. It's to be blind to just buy stuff on a whim because you're feeling sad and you're bored, and it's like, buy now quickly because the offer's going to end in 10 minutes time, and they don't want you to think, they just want you to get it. So yeah, I think it's really interesting, and hopefully conversations like this help people just be like, oh, actually I might start thinking a little bit differently.
Yeah. And now we've touched on it briefly in this conversation already, but how would you say minimalism applies to the areas of our life beyond just possessions? So maybe digitally, relationships, friendships, mindset, finances, etc.
Yeah, so decluttering your home is just one small aspect of minimalism, and it's a great place to start because it teaches you about your previous behaviors and how to begin to let go and make room in your physical space, but it bleeds into every aspect of your life. If we look at digital to start with, like, a good place to start, I think, is to start unfollowing the people that don't make you feel good on social media.
Yes, definitely.
You want to feel inspired, and plus, if you're wanting to make a lifestyle shift, start following people who are living the life that you would like to have. So educating yourself and surrounding yourself with those people will help you to make that change. And like I said, it's difficult when it's not the societal norm, and we've got the wonderful thing called the internet where you can find people who are like-minded or looking to shift that lifestyle. So unfollow all the people that are influencers showing you their Primark hauls, because that's gonna like make you think, oh, maybe I want to get that. Start following people who are living the lifestyle that you want to create for yourself. In terms of relationships, I think something that's really important, we kind of touched on it with kids, is setting boundaries will become more important as you make changes in your life. And I encourage everyone to start talking to their friends and family about gift giving, especially if you have children. You probably don't want to receive tons of toys after you've worked so hard to let a large proportion go. So start talking about the positive impact of having less in your home has had on your family. I would say talk about what you've let go of and why you've let go of it, and then start putting those boundaries in place. So say that moving forward, you'd like to receive vouchers for experiences or to spend time with them instead of physical items. And it's about saying what you would like instead of what you wouldn't like. Because if you are just going, we don't want you to give us anything else anymore, we don't want you to bring around gifts, stop doing this, stop doing that, then it just puts up such a barrier for people, and you're not giving them a different option. Like, they might not even realize that they could give you the gift of going to the zoo or spending time with them or bake a cake with the grandkids. They just think, everyone kind of just thinks of physical gifts as gift giving. So give them options of alternatives instead of saying no. Tell them what they can do. Is really important, and it also brings in that positive conversation rather than it feeling quite negative for people. And in terms of commitments, what are you doing in terms of spending your time? Like, what are you currently doing that you don't have to be doing? And is what you are doing align with who you want to be? So asking yourself these questions is setting you up to be more mindful and conscious of all aspects of your life and not just your possessions. And in terms of mindset shifts, I know this question looks beyond the possessions that we have, but for mindset, it's really helpful to reference back to looking at possessions and then thinking how we can translate that into other areas of our life. So when I consider bringing an item into my home, I always ask myself, is this item worth the cost further down the road? And is it worth the maintenance, the cleaning, the space it's going to take up, packing it and moving it when I decide I'm going to move, and then selling that item when I've had enough of it? So if you then translate that into things outside of the physical items, let's say, for example, my friend said to me, you should join our running club. I've been absolutely loving it. I've lost a couple of pounds. I've made loads of friends, and we go 3 times a week. Now, say I don't mind running. My friend seems to get loads out of it, and I want to be kind because she's invited me. That's really kind of her. I love that. But should I say yes? But I have to start thinking, what am I giving up by taking on this new thing? Am I going to be dedicating 3 nights a week to running, which means I won't be able to do that pottery class that I love so much? Or I'm going to be rushing home and then rushing back out, so I won't be able to spend time with my dog who hasn't seen me all day. Do I really have a passion for running and I want to spend 3 nights a week doing it? And maybe the answer is yes. Like, if I really think it's something that I'm going to get a lot from. But it's about questioning everything I bring into my life to ensure it's the best thing for me, rather than everything just being a yes because society says it's going to make me happier. It's a bit like, spiralizers. Everyone said, spiralizers is a new thing. We're all going to spiralize courgettes and make spaghetti, and it's going to make us happier and healthier. But like, when's the last time you used a spiralizer or the bread maker? And not every.
Yeah. I we just cleaned out our garage like 3 weeks ago, and there was my spiralizer in its box. Right.
Exactly. Society saying this is people are telling, marketing, whatever it is, this is great, and your friends and family do it out of a place of pure love, of like, I've just got this air fryer and you need to get this, but maybe you don't cook like that, but then you buy it because so and so said it's amazing, or this piece of exercise machine helped me lose loads of weight, and so you get it but then you never use it. And it's just about being like, does this actually fit who I am, my lifestyle, and who I want to be? Do I want to have to lug it around? Do I want to clean it? All of those things. Just start to consider and slow down your buying process and your decision making. whether that's purchasing something, signing up to something, doing anything, just slow it down and think, is this really what I want to be doing?
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said, about, especially about like gift giving and stuff. That's something, it was even on my mind today. So we went out for the day. My husband's been off work, and we were talking about the place we went to, we want to get a membership for. And I said to him, I was like, maybe we just ask for it for Christmas and have that for, the family membership, ask my dad, for example, and have that instead of stuff. And as well, while you were talking about it, it made me think of when we first bought this place. We moved in just before Christmas, and so we just departed with so much money, literally just before Christmas. And we asked all of our family, like when they asked what we wanted, we were like, shopping vouchers, like Morrison's vouchers, because that's where we did our shopping. And there was so much joy in being able to go and do our shopping and just use all these vouchers after Christmas and not have to spend a penny on just food. And it was like things like that are actually so meaningful, because we had just paid solicitors' fees and moving costs, and you know what it's like to move house. It's so expensive. And just not having to think about like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost a lot, our first mortgage payments coming out, and just having those vouchers for our weekly shop was amazing. And I think in the end we covered like 2 weekly shops. It was back when food was a little cheaper. But yeah, it was it was just that sort of thing is what I prefer. And we tend to, with the children as well, have things that we can experience, like we have a zoo membership, and so those things that we do instead of toys, they're things that we can all do together, or I can do with them during the week. And it's just, I prefer those experiences over another toy that's going to sing, dance and annoy me.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think back to your childhood, generally we don't remember the things we got for Christmas. If I said like, what did you get for Christmas 1999, like most people can't remember. But if you say like, do you remember a time you went, like you say, to the zoo or to a museum or whatever it is, and people can recall those things because it's memories, and they're so much more important for children. And I mean, you've got kids, like they are going to ask for things, and doesn't mean never buy your kids anything ever again. It's just like, change it up sometimes and don't buy all of those Christmas gifts and buy some different things instead in terms of experiences. But also another thing I think is quite good, if you've got quite a big family, Christmas is coming up, is to do a secret Santa. And normally, say you spent £10 on everyone and you've got 7 people in your family, if you all do a secret Santa and you agree to spend the same amount but on one person each, so that's £70. And instead of just a piece of junk plastic, novelty gift that person's never going to use because you had to buy 10 different things for £10 or whatever, you could get them genuinely something you think they might really love. And whether that is a physical item or a spa day or whatever they might enjoy, I think that is so much better than just one little piece of nothingness that's just going to sit in the back of a cupboard and cause more clutter. So have that conversation, see if everyone's up for it. Everyone's actually going to end up with something really great that they're going to enjoy. So it's just little things I think you can try and do with people and not make it feel negative. That's really important. Don't be like, we're not having any Christmases. So yeah,
I love that. Especially like, when I think about sometimes when I buy stuff for Christmas, I'm like, I need to get so and so something, and then it's like I don't really know what they want, and I end up I'll buy them this book, but do they even want this book? And it's just stuff. It's just stuff that, and then they get the book and they might be like, thanks, but I don't really want that. Well, and people are obviously always polite, but we are just, when it's gift giving time, when we're then filling other people's homes with stuff that, you know, is not necessary. And like you say, I don't remember what I got for Christmas ever. I don't
No.
even know that I could remember what I got for Christmas last Christmas, let alone, you know, when I was a kid. So yeah, you know, but you know, the things that I did as a kid, like I can remember going to Madame Tussauds, for example, when I was a kid, and you know, all of those sorts of things. And I know when we're children, we may not necessarily understand that these experiences are greater than, you know, that latest Barbie toy. Like I still wind my mum up about the fact that I asked for every Christmas for several Christmases. They had this like Barbie dream boat, and it made like milkshake. And it was like £60, I don't know, back in the 90s sometime. And she never got it for me. And I'm always like, you never got me the Barbie dream, but like I still rib her about it today. And she's like, I've looked to see if I can even get it secondhand. But
Oh, yeah, no, I know we all had those things, didn't we, that we never got. And yeah, so I'm not saying don't buy your kids anything, definitely not. Like if there's certain things they really want, and you know, get them for them, but it's all the like junky little bits that
yeah,
actually do add up, you
yeah,
know, all the plastic stocking full of stuff that they're just to fill the stocking sort of thing. It's just those things add up to 70, £100, and you could be spending those bits on an experience. So I'm not the like Scrooge of Christmas like gifts and, you know, all those things. It's definitely not, you know, please don't think I'm coming from a place of this lady said never buy anything ever again. No, I buy my family gifts and stuff, but it's being considerate about what they might actually want, and I definitely would pick experiences. So yeah.
yeah. And you know, the plastic stuff, it adds up. We went away for the weekend and we were like, oh, we'll let the kids plan the amusements. The amount of stuff we ended up bringing back, and it's like then when we did that toy rotation, I was like siphoning it off, and it's like my husband was very much like, I'm not really that interested in letting them play on the amusements. And I was like, look, give them like a fiver and they can play. And but you know, it's gone. They don't ask for it. They don't care. They don't even know what it was. And you know, the same, just in the same vein, it's like that was a little bit of money that I was prepared to
Yeah.
to lose, you know. And so yeah, but the plastic stuff, I can't stand it. But so we talked about how, you know, minimalism, what it is, and how, you know, how it is with our possessions, decluttering, and even outside of our possessions. So how did your passion for minimalism translate into a profession in organizing, and could you explain like what that looks like?
Yeah, so it took me 7 years from discovering minimalism before I decided to turn it into a career, which I'm actually really happy about. In some elements, I'm like, I could have a like massive multi-million-pound business by now, but in the same, I'm like, I think it's really great that I truly lived and breathed the process for myself, because decluttering my possessions slowly and over time and implementing the principles into my life, I feel like has really set me up for being able to help others. I knew I wanted to move my career into something to do with minimalism and helping people to discover and change their lifestyle, because I'd done it completely on my own. Like no one around me that I know personally is a minimalist. Like I said, I watched that documentary and I was like, wow, like I didn't know about this sort of stuff. So everything I learned was like online and books and stuff, and there was no one around me doing it. So I definitely was like, I want to help other people like that are close to me or online, and them to feel that there's a personal experience and help with it. So while I was learning, I discovered KonMari consultants. Have you heard of like KonMari? Yeah. They're trained by Marie Kondo, and from that I kind of found out about professional organizers and things. So but one thing I noticed in the industry of professional organizers is that it focuses mainly on like storage solutions, labels, and like decluttering. There doesn't tend to be any aftercare or mindset work, although so when people end the process they have a lovely space, but then they're just kind of left to it, and then like maintaining it and keeping it clutter free seems to be more difficult and just a little ignored. And I was just like, it's great that you are helping people to have this lovely space and they're feeling great, but they're just going to reclutter it because they'll be like, oh, this is wonderful, but 6 months time they're going to be back on Amazon, they're going to be, their kids are bringing stuff in, and clutter is one of those things that just slowly accumulates over time. You wake up one day and you're like, what the hell, like what's happened to this room? If they're not helping you with that, then you're going to have to just call them back in, which is great for them because they're going to earn more money, but realistically it's not good for the environment and it's not good for you either. So for me it was like, where is that aftercare? So with the knowledge that I have, and I wanted to make it possible for people to book decluttering and organizing parts, which I obviously do as well, but I wanted them to be able to take it as far as they wanted on the journey of minimalism. So providing that aftercare, offering online sessions for people to be able to look at their mindset and consumer habits. And the way I think about it is a little bit like a personal trainer. Like, you want to be trained by someone who's in great shape. But you might not want to have that 6-pack or to become a bodybuilder. And they can take you from just being toned and building muscle to be like completely jacked, if that's what you want to do. And it's completely up to you how far you want to go. So I can help people to just simplify their space so it's manageable again. Some people just need someone to come in and get them back on top of it, and then they can get on with it. But we can also work to the point where we completely declutter your home, we look at your mindset, your lifestyle, and we change it in relation to consumption. So I always think you want to be working with someone who has experienced that thing before, and I'm not saying is at the extreme level, but I would rather, have someone who can go from nothing to 100 and I can pick anywhere on that scale, than someone who is only at 50, so couldn't take me to 100. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of pleased that I've done it for so long and learnt so much, and am at the level I am in terms of knowledge and experience with it before I started to offer my services.
I actually I heard this saying the other day, and it was like, you're always best served to serve the person you used to be. So you are, having gone through the process, the people who haven't got there yet, they are the people that you are best served to serve in whatever capacity. And I was like, yes, like,
I completely agree. I think like you if someone hasn't experienced something, I think it's very difficult. So like, this isn't very related, but it came to my mind of that I've never, touch wood, very luckily, had anyone close to me die, like family, friends, things like that. So I find it very hard to relate to people when someone's died or know what to say or anything, because I've not experienced it whatsoever. And obviously I have empathy and I feel awful for them, but just that you can't relate if you haven't had that feeling of something. I think, like you say, it's really important to have someone who's had that. And I think maybe that's also good why I wasn't like born minimalist and been that way from the whole way, because it's then you can't really relate to the people who have lots of stuff and struggle to let things go. But it's such a natural thing to feel of that fear of letting go, and having someone to hold your hand with it who's been there. Definitely, I think it's important, and you have to find the right person as well. I suppose like anything, any sort of coaching, it's a bit like, I think what I do is a little bit like being a therapist sometimes. And you have to find the right person for you that fits with how you are and the way you want people. So for me, I'm very much about being calm, and I don't tell you what you should and shouldn't keep. I ask you questions for you to be able to make the decision and guide you in that way, because I personally wouldn't want someone to come into my home and be like, well, that's a load of rubbish, you need to throw that out. well, you don't need that, maybe it's my really old t-shirt. I've got a really old t-shirt that's got holes in it. It's really thin. I wear it as a PJ top, but it's from my dad when I had chicken pox when I was really little, and I still have it and I wear it to bed. And someone might come in and be like, well, that's got holes, throw it out. But for me, it's really sentimental and it holds value. So if someone said that to me, great, it's not my home, it's your home, you keep whatever you want to keep. But we will obviously have those questions, because you might want to keep everything, and then obviously we're not reaching that goal. But
so for those, I can be a bit like this, I guess, that get that feeling of being overwhelmed with clutter in their life, in their homes. Where would you advise that they start, and what tips do you have for anybody who's maybe looking to start a minimalist journey?
So I think education is really key to it. So start watching documentaries, find people that inspire you on YouTube, podcasts, Instagram, whatever it is. There's a program called Sort Your Life Out on BBC at the moment that loads of people say, oh, is it like Sort Your Life Out? And it is quite an inspiring program to watch. And they have all the struggles in there of people trying to make decisions on what to keep and let go of. So find something or someone who really inspires you, and to help get yourself hyped and wanting to declutter. But then my step one is literally it makes me laugh, because when people are like, right, I want to do it, what should I do? And my step one is do nothing, because you need to stop the flood before, so you need to turn off the tap before you deal with the flood. So to do that, you need to start assessing where everything is coming from, and what are the things that are appearing in your home, like what's in those cluttery piles in the corner of the room. Because you want to also think about, when are you impulsively buying things? Is it because you're stressed, you're tired, you're feeling down, you're wanting to impress someone else? What are those triggers for you? Are you sitting late at night on Instagram and seeing those influencers? Or is it those family members bringing gifts around constantly for your kids? Like, how is that coming in? Because until you stop that, you could declutter 5 things and then 10 things the next day are coming in. So you're just going against the tide. Like, you're never going to get anywhere with it. So it's just stopping and noticing what's going on in your home is the best thing you could do to begin with. So once you've been able to kind of stop the influx of things, a practical tip I would suggest is to just pick somewhere that is so easy. You want to pick a cupboard that you don't even think needs sorting out. So whether it's something that you decluttered a couple of weeks ago, or you're like, that's not got hardly anything in it, that doesn't even need doing. Pick that one, because the simpler, the better. And you might be like, why? I need to tackle that cupboard of doom that's popping off. Is because you want that easy win, and that's going to motivate you once it's done, probably quite quickly, to want to move on to the next place. So I always say, get those easy wins in first, because you're gonna be like, yes, I can do this, it's done, it looks great. And then otherwise you're literally gonna pull everything out of that scary cupboard. You're gonna sit there for half an hour procrastinating, looking through old memory boxes and stuff. It's gonna get to 12 o'clock at night, and you're gonna go, oh god, no, I'm just gonna shove it all back in, close the doors, I'm never gonna declutter again. So I want you to pick somewhere really simple. And what you're going to do is take the entire contents of that really easy cupboard out, and you are going to categorize everything. So it needs to all come out of that space. And because we're picking something easy, there's probably not going to be much, but it needs to all come out. Don't just pick one thing out and have a look at it and be like yes or no, because you need to see everything in one go. So bring it all out, put it on the floor in front of you, and categorize it. So let's say it had loads of random stuff in, so you put all the light bulbs together, all the batteries together, all the pieces of string together, whatever is in that you want to group it. Now, the reason you are doing that is because, let's say when you get to your wardrobe and you're going to start decluttering that, because every single space is the exact same process. You don't want to then be pulling out a jumper. Do I want this? Do I not? Then pulling out a t-shirt. Do I want this? Do I not? Pair of knickers. Then you go back to a different jumper. And then you're like, oh, well, I kept that jumper, but this jumper's also for winter. Did I say I was going to keep that jumper? And you can't remember. Whereas if you did all the jumpers in one, you can be like, okay, I need one for winter, one for summer, one for when I'm in the garden. And then you can go through all the jumpers and just pick out the ones you want, rather than like trying to remember, did I keep that? Didn't I keep that? How many have I kept? So that's why you're categorizing everything. The amount of people I go and declutter their kitchens and they're like, didn't realize we had 10 wooden spoons. Where have they all come from? That's because I've emptied out their entire kitchen and categorized it. And then there was 5 in that cupboard, 1 in the pot, 3 in that drawer. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm always looking for one. And, you know, we've just kept buying more and more. But if you don't empty the space, then you don't know. And you've ended up keeping them because you forgot 3 hours ago you kept 3 wooden spoons. So yeah, really important. Get it all out and categorize it. And then you want to go through each category. And the reason I say this with such emphasis is because people then go, oh God, look at this chaos. Oh, I haven't seen that in ages. And they're just going from thing to thing and they get distracted and everything's just like, oh, time passes. So I want you to just literally hone in on one category in front of you. And I always think maybe like just go from left to right through the categories, like just decide on where I'm going to start in the far left corner in whatever categories over there. And just look at that pile, ignore the mess, ignore what's around you, and look at that one pile and go through, do I want this? Do I use this? You know, where's this from? Is it broken? All of those honest questions you need to be having with yourself as to whether you need to keep it or not. And keep an eye on what your goal is. Are you saying to yourself, right, I need to get rid of 50% of the stuff we've got in here because it's really difficult to find anything? And keep that goal in mind, because you will start being like, oh yeah, no, I will keep that. Oh yeah, no, I'll keep that too. And then you'll end up keeping everything. So just have those really honest conversations with yourself. And you can print off a list of questions and just literally go through them, so that you are remembering what to ask yourself. And then anything you do want to keep, you can then reorganize back into that space. Now, I'm not against storage solutions. Like, I love them. I think they're great. And the labels, all of that. I'm not saying don't do that, but obviously the actual decluttering part and making sure you're getting rid of stuff is really important. So reorganize what you're keeping back into the space. And if there's stuff in there that you've pulled out and you're like, actually, you know, that nail varnish needs to be in the bathroom and this and this needs to go into the kids' room, you might not quite have a home for those things yet in that room, but go and put them in that space, ready for when you do get around to decluttering that space, like it's already where it should be. So yeah, that's kind of my tips. Hopefully you can take something from that. But like I say, try to focus in on what you're doing. Don't get lost in the chaos, and remember to keep as little as humanly possible. No, I'm joking. Like, keep what you really need and love and use, and not just like, oh, I didn't have that, you know, remember that from 5 years ago, maybe I'll keep it. Like, you haven't used it, so you can let it go.
Yeah, every time you were talking about cupboards of doom, I was thinking, I know which cupboard I need to sort out. I actually sorted out a cupboard. We have a cupboard in my bedroom, and it's like an extension of the airing cupboard. They're all connected, but they're in completely different places. And I actually changed it into like bedding in there, and it needs some love. It does need some love. So you won't see me again now on Instagram for about 2 weeks, because I'm off to like declutter everything. Like while you were talking, I'm just thinking like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And I can already, like, I know where there are things that are sticking points. And I still, I mean, I know everybody listening can't see, but I know you're like, we're sitting looking at a very untidy wardrobe. But like, I know there are a few sticking points around our house, and I would consider myself to be fairly good in managing the space that we have. But like you say, stuff comes in, and identifying where it comes in is really important. It's like, I know that tomorrow I need to order the kids some new drinking bottles, and so because I want to switch them to like a stainless steel drinking bottle instead of a plastic one. So the important thing is to then make sure that the plastic ones do leave once the stainless steel ones arrive. And, you know, like I said earlier, I try to be like super mindful about what I'm spending money on anyway. But yeah, just being mindful of where it's coming from, because like you say, it just explodes. And I remember like a time I really remember it exploding was when we had our first child. We didn't know what her gender was, so we kept it as a surprise all the way through. And you wouldn't believe how quickly after I came home that my house just exploded in pink. Like the amount of stuff that arrived that was pink, like every surface, cards, presents, blankets, baby grows, like it was, I just remember, and at the time it wasn't, so I wasn't like panicking, like, where am I going to put everything? Because we actually had a lot of space before we had her. But yeah, it just reminds me of a time where it just absolutely exploded very quickly. And you know, I've just come back from holiday when we're recording this, and like my hallway is still filled with like the suitcases down there, and oh, it's just a lot. And I'm one of these people that doesn't necessarily unpack their suitcase right as they arrive, so I'm a work in progress on that.
And I think it's really important, you know, I don't want people to listen to, because I listen to things where, you know, there's people about habit changes and all these things like, do this, it will change your life, and this is great. And then you go away feeling like really overwhelmed, like, how am I going to implement all this into my life? This person's just come and told me all this stuff I need to do. Like, because believe me, I'm also someone who's easily overwhelmed and feels like, oh, I can't bring everything in. And I think it's really important to be gentle with yourself and to think life is busy, there's a lot going on, and like you say, things are coming in all the time, is to not look for trying to make everything perfect. It can't be perfect all the time. My house, sometimes if you came and looked, would be that you'd be like, this girl is not a professional organizer. Her house is a mess. But the thing is that because I have less staff, it will be tidy within like the space of an hour, which might have been 3-4 hours if there was loads of stuff and I had to put loads away. So I'm not coming from a place of my home's perfect all of the time and looks like a show home, because it 100% does not. And it's really important when you are decluttering to be gentle with yourself and to know that everyone makes mistakes with purchasing decisions. I have people all the time saying to me like, but I spent £300 on it and I've never used it and I feel awful, and so I don't want to get rid of it and I don't know what to do, but I'm never gonna look at it ever again. And it's like, it's okay to have made a mistake in purchasing something, or to have accepted a gift that you shouldn't have, but you just didn't want to say no to the person at the time. It's okay to do that. No one's gonna be annoyed at you, and like I say, you're not going to have to be perfect. It's just about learning. And I've spent 7 years doing this, in terms of me buying things and then regretting it and having to send it back or sell it on. It's never going to be perfect. It's about just being like, okay, this has happened, I've learned a lesson from it. What is the lesson, and how am I going to do something different in the future? My mum still buys me presents that I haven't asked for every Christmas and birthday, and I still struggle to say, what is this? I don't want this. Like, you know what I do for a living and like my lifestyle. And she comes to my house and tells me how calm and amazing it is, while her house doesn't quite look like that. But yet she still buys me stuff, but she's doing it out of love. And I always am really grateful, and I know she's just trying to express her love. But what I do is I accept it. I say, thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate the love you're sharing with me. And then I go and pass it on, like whether I donate that or I sell that, because she's not giving it to me to burden me.
Yeah.
She's given me out of love, and she's, you know, trying to do something lovely. But in my mind, in my life, it will become a burden to have all this stuff that I don't use or want. So it's now mine, and I can then do what I want with it. And remember that people say, oh, but what was if they come round and ask, where's that thing? Like, how many times have you ever gone round someone's house and been like, where is that vase I bought you 5 years ago? Like, no one does it.
Yeah.
No one does it. And if they are, they're a crazy person.
Yeah.
Like, so it's okay. It's okay to let it go, or just say it broke or something, anything. It's fine. You don't have to have ugly things you hate in your home because someone gave it to you. It's okay to let them go. So yeah, that's really important, is to just be gentle and know that it's a process and it's not going to be perfect all the time.
Yeah, we always say, like, in our house, you know, sometimes we'll be talking about something or other, and I'll be like, oh, but you know, we spent £40 on that, and my husband always says to me, he's like, but it's gone. We spent that £40. It's ours now to do what we want with it, and let's let it go, you know, because, and he's right, you know, hanging on to something because you spent X amount of money on it is silly, because holding on to it doesn't make it sort of, you know, you're not sort of appreciating its value. What, I have to keep it for 10 years? Like, what's the rule?
Yeah.
Right? If I buy a suitcase for £80 and it gets cracked the first time I use it, I'm going to bin it. You know, it's no good just holding on to things just because you spent money on it, because the money's gone.
No, definitely. And, you know, unless it's some sort of like vintage something or other, or a home, like the minute you walk out the door with something from a shop, it loses its value immediately. Even if you like, it's still in its packet and you resell it, you can't resell it for the recommended retail price, because people just be like, well, I can buy it in a shop for the same price. So the minute you walk out, it loses value. So you have that option. Are you just going to have that money sat in that object and it will just deplete and deplete because it goes out of style and it gets older and people don't want it? Or are you going to just sell it on now and recoup some of your money? Like, it's up to you what decision you make. But yeah, it's probably going to live a better life with someone who actually really wants it in their home, and they want, you know, they love it or whatever, rather than it being sat in the back of your cupboards.
You know, we live in a world where, you know, we're trying to repurpose things more, but you know, sometimes we can just like transfer those, you know, those urges of buying things brand new can also transfer over into like secondhand stuff as well. And I have done cloth nappies with both my children, and I was very strict with myself because they're beautiful, the patterns are beautiful on them, and you know, they look nice. But I was very strict with myself that it takes around like 20 cloth nappies if you want to do it full time with washing and stuff. And like, I know people that have got like 40, 60, 100, because it's almost like a bit of a collection thing. And I was like, I will get the 20 and that will be absolutely it. And I stuck to it. I've done it with both kids, and now, you know, I'm at the point where, you know, I want to get rid of them because they're getting in my way. But yeah, it's just, I think sometimes we can move that urge to buy into other areas as well.
Yeah, massively. You know, the amount of people who are like, well, I buy on Vinted now, but actually it's really addictive. And I'm like, yeah, because, you know, they're getting things for like nothing on Vinted. And you know, so then they're just like, well, it was only £2, it was only £4, and they've just, and then it's, yeah, like you say, you know, but it's secondhand, so it's okay. And it is just that buying thing again. So we have to look at our mindset of the consumerism element of it, of why we're buying this stuff and what is the reason. And something is 100% off if you don't buy it. You know, people are like, well, it's 50% off, and it's like, well, it's 100% off if you don't spend any money on it.
Yes.
So I think, you know, it's noticing those things creeping in and being like, okay, I've stopped buying in the high street and now I'm buying stuff in charity shops, vintage, whatever it is. And it feels a little bit better because it's not brand new, but it's still the same habit. So it's about realizing what you're doing, why you're doing it, and dealing with that root cause. That's really important. to bring long lasting change. And we have to remember, like, I don't think it's great for the environment to buy a load of stuff, then declutter it 6 months later, and then buy a load of more new, like whether it's new or not, more stuff to, unless you're selling it, the stuff you're donating to the charity shop, they only actually sell 25% of that stuff. And a lot of it goes to third world countries and ends up being sold in bundles that actually end up in there. They don't even have landfills in these countries. It's literally just like a sea of clothing and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like pictures of like, is it like the desert in South America or something? And it's just like piled high with clothes.
Yeah. And so I think the thing to do with it is to just start thinking of capsule wardrobes in terms of buying things that you are going to wear for 5-10 years. And I know that feels really odd to people nowadays because, you know, trends change and the latest thing and you want something new, but it's about buying things that are cotton, linen, you know, natural materials that are going to wash well, they're not going to lose shape. It's about buying things that doesn't mean you have to live in all black. Like, I'm not someone who lives in all black clothing, and that's another thing about minimalists, like, oh, they have a uniform and stuff, and like, no, wear color, wear whatever you want, but have really great basics that you can mix and match and bring those color elements into. And just having stuff that you're just going to wear day in, day out, have some really nice pieces that are dresses and stuff, but don't feel awful. Like, I've been to quite a few weddings over the last couple of years and like just worn the same dress, and it's, you know, no one cares, no one even notices. I did a 30-day challenge where I wore this a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans for 30 days, and obviously it wasn't the same white t-shirt. I had a variety of white t-shirts, it wasn't that stinky, but the reason I did it was, one, just to see whether I could just get rid of all my clothes and just like only own white t-shirts and jeans as an experiment, but also just to see what other people might say, like, didn't you wear that yesterday, or, you know, why are you just wearing that? And literally no one noticed, no one said anything to me, because no one cares what you're wearing. Like, they're more bothered about themselves and their own lives. So just, I think it's really important to just have those basics in your wardrobe that are really high quality, that are going to last a long time, and then stop looking at all the sites, delete vintage, and like, because when you aren't looking, the likelihood of you like, do you know what I need is a purple top with flowers on it, if you haven't seen it, then the likelihood of you getting that desire is not there. So especially when you are first getting into trying to change your lifestyle, reduce down that amount of influence that's coming in, and like the things that are all going to tempt you to buy stuff. So delete those apps and like stop yourself from being able to look at certain things, because you will be really easily tempted. And as you get further into minimalism, you'll be able to like see things and think, I don't need that, I don't want it. Just stop the potential buying habits happening, I suppose is what I mean. Just stop them from being able to infiltrate you, and in those weak moments be like, actually, yeah, I'll buy it. Yeah, I think it's important to try and just remove those things. It's like you take out like crisps and biscuits and stuff, don't you, when you're trying to be on a diet? Like, don't have it in the home. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, you know, when we're out shopping, remember that it's like it's set up in the way that it wants us to buy things. That's why there's chocolate at the checkout. You know, like, I'm queuing for petrol and I'm like, do I need a double decker? It's like, I don't need a double decker, but now I want a double decker. And you know, it's like that everywhere, whichever shop, anywhere, anytime. Like, I went and bought a top because I ripped a top when I was on holiday, and I wanted another white top to wear, and so I was like, I will pop into Primark, get a white top, because I don't have enough clothes now. Well, I mean, I could have been a bit smelly, but you know, and you know, like, I'm standing in the queue with this like simple white top, and I was like, do I need trainer socks? And it's like, no, I don't need trainer socks. do I need the socks? And I'm like, oh, I hope this queue just hurries up before I end up spending more money.
Exactly.
It's what it's designed to do.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of money that these people are paid to make you buy this stuff, like it's a whole nother business. And so turn off that one-click Amazon. The reason they do one click on Amazon to be able to check out is so that you can't even think about it. There's literally nothing to stop you from just going, yeah, okay, bought, too late, is at your door the next day. They just speed it all up so you can't think. Like, remove your credit cards and stuff from like the checkout so it doesn't remember it. So you have to go and get your cards, you have to put it all in, you have to make sure your bank account says yes, because that is all the little moments where you can be like, actually can't be bothered, actually I don't need this. And that's why they remove it, so that you can't think. That's why those things are at the till. All of those things are set up, and we just don't recognize it because we're like, oh, they're just making it easy, and like, so I don't have to. But there's a reason for it, and it's just so you'll buy more and more and forget. So put in those barriers to stop yourself and help yourself.
Yeah, well, that it's been so wonderful talking to you, and been great to have you on the podcast and share everything about decluttering and minimalism and everything. So where can listeners connect? Let me start again.
It's late now. We're both like, oh.
Yeah, blah. What's the word? Where can listeners connect with you online and find out more about the services you offer?
Yeah, so my business is Simpl Living Co, but there's no E on the Simpl, so it's SIMPL and then Living Co. My website is simpleliving.co. My Instagram's at Simpl Living Co without the E. So what I offer is in-person services to clients in West Sussex, East Sussex, Surrey and South London, where I can come into your home and help you to physically declutter your space. But I also offer online sessions worldwide where we can talk through your space and give you a personalized action plan that can help you to declutter whatever area of your home you want. So you can literally just go one thing at a time and tick it off so that you'll know you're doing it in a way that's going to be quick and efficient for you. And we can also talk about the triggers and the sticking points. And you can also have the option to message me throughout the entire process, so I can be your sounding board and your cheerleader. The other thing that I recently launched, which is, we were talking about be the person that you would have wanted and stuff. And so I've recently launched the Simpl Living Community, which is an online monthly meetup. And it's where people all come together who are wanting to declutter their homes and change their mindsets around consumerism and their habits. And we are going to have Q&As, declutter along sessions. There's going to be guest speakers and a private WhatsApp group. And basically, like I said, I didn't have anyone with me when I was decluttering, and I was just having to motivate myself and learn things online. And it would have been so wonderful to have other people there like, oh yeah, no, I'm struggling with that, and what do you guys think I should do with this and stuff. So obviously I'll be there to help and support you, but also it's just great to have other people as well cheering you on while you're decluttering. So yeah, that's the kind of things that I offer. Like, feel free to send me a DM. You can have a free consultation. But yeah, get in touch via my website or Instagram, and I would love to hear from you.
That all sounds wonderful, and I love the sound of the community. That sounds amazing. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for having me, and I hope people can take just like one thing away and maybe go declutter one tiny area.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to go now and declutter that cupboard. These episodes, they're so amazing, and it's so wonderful to have Shannon here with me on the podcast. You can check out all of Shannon's links below. I will link everything in the notes, and you can go check her out, check out all of her amazing decluttering and minimalism tips, and yeah, I am definitely off to go and declutter right now. So I'm definitely feeling inspired by talking to Shannon, and feeling inspired to just
really pare down what I have, because although I feel like I do okay, I feel like I can definitely do better, and that's why these conversations are so inspiring. So thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to check out Shannon. Like I said, I've linked everything below so you can check her out. And yeah, let's get decluttering, guys. Let's embrace a little bit more minimalism across all aspects of our lives, because it honestly, the change in mindset makes you feel so much better. So like I've said, thank you so much for listening, and you can check me out over on Instagram. My username there is @lifeonplot44, and you can check out the blog as always, which is theslowlivingcollective.com. So until the next episode, guys, I will see you either over on Instagram or I will see you here for the next one. Take care.